Imagine discovering a letter, just a quiet piece of paper, sent years before the Titanic even existed, that describes a ship so massive, so luxurious, so unsinkable. It's a chilling prediction, written 14 years before the Titanic ever sailed. Nations weren't just competing for survival anymore, they were competing for prestige. But one man, a respected American naval officer named William Thomas Stead, saw something that everyone else was ignoring. Its title was simple enough: How the Mail Steamer Went Down in Mid-Atlantic. He wrote, "This is exactly what might take place." Now, this wasn't a ghost story, it wasn't some kind of superstition. He was a reformer, a man absolutely obsessed with safety at sea. He saw the pattern: too many passengers crammed onto these new floating cities, far too few lifeboats for all of them, way too much confidence in technology, and far too little caution. He became convinced that disaster wasn't just possible, it was inevitable. Fast forward to April 1912. The RMS Titanic, the greatest ship ever built, leaves Southampton on her maiden voyage. And everywhere she goes, the same phrase follows her like a shadow: unsinkable. Passengers felt completely safe. The crew felt incredibly proud. The whole world felt invincible. But Stead's warning, that forgotten letter he wrote 14 years earlier, was about to come true in the most tragic way possible. The collision was barely felt by most on board. A slight shudder, nothing more, but the damage was fatal. And here's the most tragic detail: the exact nightmare that Stead had warned the world about all those years ago: not enough lifeboats. There were more than 2,000 people on board, with lifeboat seats for barely half of them. He was on board the Titanic when it sank. He had been invited to travel to America for a peace conference. He accepted the ticket, boarded the famous ship, and on that cold April night he came face to face with the exact disaster he had foreseen. Survivors later said he remained completely calm through the chaos. One witness claimed that he was last seen in the first-class reading room, quietly holding a book, as the ship went down, waiting for the end. In the aftermath of the sinking, newspapers frantically searched for answers. How could this possibly happen? How could a ship so advanced, so celebrated, fail so catastrophically? That's when someone found it: Stead's letter, published 14 years earlier. A perfect, chilling prediction. Editors were stunned. Historians were shocked. Families grieving for their lost loved ones read it and wept. It wasn't magic. It wasn't a prophecy from beyond. It was a warning. A very logical, well-reasoned warning from an expert who saw the signs. A warning the world chose to ignore. The Titanic disaster changed maritime law forever. New regulations were put in place almost immediately. Crews had to be trained for emergencies. The International Ice Patrol was established to monitor the very iceberg lanes that claimed the Titanic. Safety was no longer optional, it was mandatory. It comes from a man with a pen, a letter, and a desperate plea that the world failed to hear. And his letter remains one of history's most powerful reminders that sometimes warnings come long before disaster strikes. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into history's forgotten tales.